Welcome to the Bridge of Two podcast. Welcome to the Bridge of Two podcast.
Welcome back, everybody.
We are back on the bridge. We have our guest, Alex.
Hello.
Hello, Alex. I actually meant to look this up. So Alex was on, and we talked about sequels.
Yes.
And that was,
It was a while ago.
I think, our longest episode.
Yes.
Really?
But also,
Because we were still in the apartment when so that's been over a year.
Oh yeah.
Also, that was like one of our. I mean, it was a well listened podcast episode. You know, I think I don't want to say the numbers so people have
At least a
big
1,000. At least
imagination.
1,000, right?
But it was.
You guys just hit a mill on
Yeah.
Spotify, right?
Yeah.
I saw the plaque.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
Our YouTube channel's blowing up.
Yeah, we are on YouTube now because YouTube made it easier to take your RSS feed and just turn your entire catalog into videos, with your artwork.
Conquer the world, man.
So yeah, it's fun. So now I go there to look at views too. But yeah, so we are back. We brought Alex on because we've got a very important episode today. We're going to be talking about
Something the fans have been waiting for.
everyone's been waiting for our take on the Acolyte. I'm going to keep calling it that.
The
'Cause it
Acolyte?
makes me so happy to say it.
The Acolyte?
The Acolyte.
It's an A, Josh, not no.
I know, but
The
it's Acolyte.
the Octolite.
It is 8
episodes.
episodes. That's what we're going to call it. This episode is called Acolyte.
I just prefer to call it
It's
garbage.
brought to you by
I'm
Acolyte.
just playing. I'm half playing.
Already getting spicy.
Oh, yeah.
It was just, we were talking about it so much at the beginning of every episode. It's like, we need to just watch
Yeah,
it.
that's like 3 or 4 episodes we've been talking about it. So we needed an episode, and we figured who better to bring on than Alex.
Yes. We figured Alex would have some opinions. So,
I have a thing or two, maybe.
yeah.
Maybe.
Just a few.
Yeah.
So, but before we get into the meat of the podcast, let's talk about our sci-fi and fantasy escapades that we may have been, excavating and excavating. I don't know what it is.
Digging up.
I try to say
Are you okay? Are you stroking?
Extrapolating.
I try to say it different every time. I started last time. I'm going to ask Jeremiah to start.
I have been doing the same thing I always do. No,
Drugs.
I have jumped a little bit back onto the OG Marvel train.
Uppers or
Oh.
downers?
Steph and I have been going back through the old,
Yeah.
the Infinity Saga stuff. So with we just watched Iron Man 1 and 2.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Iron Man 1.
Going back to the OGs, the one, back when Marvel was good. So we're gonna go through that. I didn't realize at the time, but it's been I haven't seen those movies since they've come out. Iron Man in particular, and Thor, the first Thor, and all that. So it's been fun to go back and watch those. We'll watch Thor is next. We're gonna watch Thor next year soon, probably the next couple of days. So that's been a lot of fun. That kind of started because I started playing. I decided it was on sale. Marvel Midnight Suns, the strategy game.
Mm.
That's also card based. I had wanted to play it for a while because I just like that strategy combat. But it was on sale for $10 with all the DLC.
Mm.
And so, and with Marvel or with Deadpool and Wolverine coming out, I was kind of in well, let me play it. You can play Deadpool in it.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? Let me go pick it up. So I started playing that game, and that game is actually
That's
a
good.
lot of fun. It's just interesting because it does do a lot of you obviously have your combat missions, but half the game is spent in the hub area talking to your companions and building friendships.
Mm.
And it's borderline kind of silly, but it's also Marvel silly.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a comic book game.
Right.
But I'm enjoying it. It's been a lot of fun. The combat's very fun. It's the strategy aspect of it. I even don't mind the card aspect of it. I usually don't like games that deal card-based systems. I think they're annoying. But it adds a different level of strategy of like being able to, and like kind of like build crafting, where like you can like change out the different cards you have, and it's a very limited amount of cards too. So instead of just spamming one attack, you actually have to like go, use what you have.
No.
So that's been fun. But yeah, so kind of a little bit of a Marvel kick, the good Marvel stuff.
Right. Nice.
Other than that, not much else. Just been playing. I'm still playing Final Fantasy X.
Okay.
Working my way through that. I'll be done probably I'm like.
Now you're 10, not 10-2.
Just 10.
Okay.
I like probably 3
There's a second 10.
There is.
There's a 10-2.
X2. X-Men United.
So but I'm like kind of took a step back for a little bit. I'm like 3/4 way through. I hit a point where I have to go grind. And like a major difficulty spike just happened. I had to go out and grind, and I just haven't been wanting to do that.
You realize like you're not high enough level. Yeah, this always happens in Final Fantasies.
Yes,
like,
so I've hit that point.
I'm supposed to be like 10 levels higher.
That's when I got the Marvel game.
Okay,
so it was like, I feel like grinding. Let me look for something else to play. But other than that, reading, pick Words of Radiance back up.
Second Stormlight book.
The second Stormlight book.
Yep.
To do my reread to get ready for to get ready for the Wind and Truth.
Fifth book.
The fifth book.
Stormlight.
Plus with the
Brandon
news.
Sanderson.
I mean, this man is prolific.
He is, yes.
It seems like there's always a new book.
Oh, and there's always
there's a new secret. They just announced there was. So this just dropped the other day. We've all been waiting for the Kickstarter for the Stormlight RPG. So Brandon Sanderson is with Brotherwise Games making a D&D for the Stormlight archive, which is the way it came out, those like large books. Well, they just dropped it the other day, and we've come to find out that it's not just the Stormlight RPG, it's the Cosmere RPG. So his entire world, so like all his books encompass a world. Yeah. He has now made this RPG, tabletop RPG, is going to encompass all of them.
Right. So like when it finally all comes out, you'll be able to
Stormlight, Mistborn, Elantris.
You'll be able to make a character that's from any of these like magic systems or like books that are like connected, part of the like connected universe, and then like world hop and stuff, like go between worlds and things like that. And and what's even cool too is when it releases, they're releasing it with an adventure path that is. For the Stormlight Adventure Path, it's actually canonical, and it's going to take place leading into Book 5. He basically came out and said, he's like, it's a story that I was finding out how to tell and didn't really know when or how to tell it. It probably would have been a short story if he wasn't doing this, would be my guess. But he's like, so it's technically a canonical event. Obviously, it's D&D, so you get to make your own. I wonder if it has to do with rock. It might. Or it might have something to do with, what's his name? The guy in the one book, the Sunlit Man. It might have something to do with the main character?
Because isn't he a Stonewalker?
Or no,
Stonewalker.
I think that's what Stonewalker is. What they call. That's the
right.
People
no, you're right.
The Shin people call.
Well, I'm really showing my knowledge here. My lack of.
Hey, that's why I'm here.
Noob. Casual.
But really excited for that. That looks cool. I can't wait to play that when it comes out. Nice. So we'll be doing a campaign.
That sounds like a really epically awesome thing for like the fans that you wouldn't expect from
huge. And he wrote, him and Dan Wells, the other author that he brought on, wrote the adventure path that's canonical, and it's like a level 1 through 6, and then so afterwards you can go do whatever you want. And it's just like he's like it's a canonical story, but he's like, it being D&D, he's like, obviously you're making your own choices, you're gonna do your own thing, so it'll be different than what like is technically canon, but the story follows along. I just think it's such a cool way to incorporate something that's canon into his books. To make it's like it actually spans medium. It's like not just books. Yeah. I mean, like obviously, hopefully there'll be movies and shows at some point that are good, but preferably that would be. But he's like he's deciding like in the meantime I'm just gonna do things anyway. Like I'm gonna make comics and make RPGs and he's working on a Mistborn deck building game. Yep. Like Magic or whatever, stuff like that. So
he's just like going, just doing it all himself.
This man just never stops. I just don't think he sleeps.
Is it like, is he by himself or does he have like a creative team that he works with?
He has a whole team.
He has a company.
Yeah, he's got a Dragon Steel.
Yeah, it's like slowly built it, like, I mean, the Kickstarters have been a big part of him building the company because I think when he did a Kickstarter with all these secret projects the other year, that was huge, and it did so well, and there were so many orders they were going to be having to fulfill that he had to like basically double his staff, and then since then they've done a couple other Kickstarters, or at least one other.
They've done one for each Leatherbound. The Way of Kings Leatherbound, he did one.
That was the first one.
And then the Words of Radiance.
They just did the Words of Radiance Leatherbound, but like, it's just been kind of like steadily building, and then this company Brotherwise that makes board games and stuff, they had a kind of formed a partnership with them, and so they were kind of like overseeing it and like developing it, but working in collaboration with Brandon, like because Brandon wanted to make it canon, so he was like very involved.
I think as far as like all the writing goes, like the books and the lore, that's all him, except for now he's brought on another author just recently.
Yeah,
but like as far as the other stuff goes, because he even has his own convention that he does, Dragon Steel.
Yeah.
Which the next one's in November over in Utah, but like everything's just grown exponentially.
Mans is blowing up.
Yeah, he is.
As he should. He's a very, very talented author. I mean, with how much books he freaking puts out in a year and still to have the quality that he does, because all of his books that I've read at least are very high quality. Some are better than others. You can definitely tell when like some of his older books compared to his newer books. But like every book that I've read, I've never like been like, I don't feel like finishing this. Actually, I've read all of them except for Mistborn. I read all of them multiple times and still enjoy them. So he's just he's good. He's a good author. I'm glad he's blowing up. Hopefully he continues to. I'm really excited for this RPG. Enough to drop money that I'm not going to say right now. It's expensive. Hey. What have you been up to?
Oh, me. Well, the latest, this is just today I played a little bit of this, the latest Helldivers. Have you heard of Helldivers?
I've heard of it. I've watched some of it. It looks awesome. I just don't have a way to play it.
Because it's Xbox. Don't PlayStation?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I have it on the computer, but it is a lot of fun. I mean, there's a thing, like when you start playing it for a while, you start to notice things that the developers, they're really good in one sense, but they tend to make changes that aren't fully, because they kind of like, it blew up really big, like bigger than the team that they have. And I think they probably are doing things to try and make everything be higher quality as far as like bugs and stuff. But a lot of times stuff will get released and it's just not where it needs to be. So sometimes there's some backlash. And sometimes they'll nerf stuff. It's a PvE game. So it's like,
you should never nerf it.
It's not competitive. Game. Yeah. So but they're trying to make it like, well, this is how we're intending for this to be used, and we intend for this to, these, and sometimes it makes sense and it's like justified, but it's like they just made a change.
Does it take away the fun? Not
for me, honestly, because first of all, a lot of the like weapons that end up getting nerfed are weapons I don't use. I like to run
the man who dodged the nerfs.
Yeah, I'm like using weapons that I guess aren't too OP or whatever. But if they ever nerf the anti-material rifle, which is like this huge sniper rifle, if they ever nerf that, then I will.
There's gonna be words.
That's like such a great
fun ruined.
Yeah. But they usually respond to the fan feedback though, and eventually like things will come to a better place. But so they had this fire based like war bond, it's about to come out. It's like you pay you can earn the currency in the game, or you can just pay $10 or whatever and get like this access to like unlock these new weapons and armor and stuff. And so the one they just released is all fire based. And right before they released it, they took the flamethrower, which was like a special weapon that it's not one you spawn in with, it's one you have to like call down. And They took the flamethrower and said, well, these big hulking like things that are like kind of like a bug version of bulls, because they charge at you. They're called chargers. They have super big armor in the front, and one of the meta ways to beat them was with a flamethrower. You just flamethrow on them, dodge out of the way, flamethrow on them, and you'll kill a charger pretty reasonably. Now, mind you still have like stuff coming at you and things like that, so it's not like it was easy mode, but it was a reliable way to do it. Well, they said that what was happening was actually a bug, that the buyer was clipping through the armor in the front. And so it was like negating the armor more than it should have been. And so they fixed that bug. And so now the flamethrower is like super nerfed. But that's like a thing too with, now they have this whole fire-based, like all these other fire-based weapons. Like there's a fire pistol, a fire like primary. And like the chargers are like just such a big thing you have to deal with in the game that it's kind of like, it's kind of like made a little bit of backlash against the game. So it's a fun game. They did just release like some new mission types and new enemy types and a new difficulty level. And I was messing around in there today, and I always enjoy that stuff and have fun with it. Just keeps it interesting enough to keep checking it out. But that's just a thing that they do, and then people get upset, and some people are a little rabid about it. But
I think in this day and age, there are certain people that just wait for bad things like that to happen in a game to like harp on.
Like they'll keep playing it.
Like I do think that there are certain complaints that people have that I think are legitimate. Well, yeah, there are certain complaints that people have that are legitimate, but then I do think sometimes that like you just are just trying to grasp at something,
right?
And it's just like, I get it, but I mean, if you're still having fun or can still have fun in the game, it's not that big of a deal. As long as they're not like ruining the game,
right? Which
it doesn't seem like they necessarily are.
You just have to be more. You have to get behind the charger. It has a weak spot in the back. You can do that, but it just affects the way people play now. But I think also though the backlash has been big enough that I think, and they actually responded and said we're talking about how we're handling fire damage and stuff in the game. So I think that they're going to make some kind of balance that's going to bring it back to something that's a little more reasonable, Yeah,
they just need to be careful not to alienate what fans they have right now, because I know they had a big drop with the whole PlayStation Network thing that they had going on.
Yeah.
Because some of that shady, that was definitely Sony's fault and not theirs.
Right.
Which is unfortunate. But I know they had a drop since then, so they gotta just be careful.
Right.
Because I do think it's a good game. I think the developers are really good. I like they're keeping it very much just, this is a game, and we're just keeping it as a game. We're not going to bring anything else into it that we don't need.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. But so beyond that, I'm close to finishing the first Rebel Commando book. And you ever read any of those?
No, but it's on the ever-growing list of things I hope
things
to touch one day. Yeah.
Did you ever play the game Republic Commando Star Wars game?
No. I remember watching the trailer before the game came out and thinking, "Oh, that's sick." But wasn't it only PC at the time that it came out? I think you're right.
I think it came out on PC first, because that was back in the day.
Yeah.
When like
it might have been on Xbox, like the OG Xbox.
It did come to Xbox. But I don't remember how soon it did.
I just remember thinking like, oh, that is the sickest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And then being disappointed to find out that I wouldn't have a way to play it. Yeah. So I just never did.
It holds up. It's a good game.
I wonder if it's... Do you have an Xbox?
It's on all consoles now. You can get on the Switch.
You probably get on. It's like worth it. Like it holds up.
Yeah.
I did put some mods on it. I was playing through it recently, and it helps a little bit with the
graphical mods.
Yeah, they just improve the graphics a little bit.
Okay. But even then, it's not like I played it on the Switch not too long ago, just because it was like on sale for like $5, and even on the Switch, it held up really well.
Yeah,
it's a fun game. The books are also just phenomenal.
Yeah,
probably some of the best Star Wars books that are out there.
Like I said, on the list.
Well, that's enough about me. So, Alex, what do you have to share with the class?
First of all, very well executed beard, Red. You look
thank you.
Fantastic.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I actually need to.
Teacher's pet over here.
I almost trimmed it.
I gotta give credit where it's due. What have I been doing? This is a very exciting time for me right now because there's a big event happening in my favorite franchise.
Ooh,
the new Alien movie.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
In
a movie that's actually called Alien.
Right, Romulus, which was rumored to be the working title. It's like, all right, well, they've named it after the ship again. So,
oh, is that what the Prometheus one was?
Yeah, and Covenant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
see Covenant. So what do you think? How are you feeling about this one?
I have purposefully sheltered myself from all trailers, all information. Wow. I have not read any leaks. I have seen images, like I'll pass reels of the trailer on Instagram or whatever, and I purposefully just scroll on through. I avert my eyes, and I'm avoiding, like, I follow this alien YouTuber or whatever. I'm avoiding his videos right now because I know he's going to be talking about it. Because I just want to, I don't want any outside influence. I really just want to kind of consume it and like really think for myself what I actually feel about it.
Right.
Because you just always assume these days, whenever they dip a toe back into a franchise, it's going to be ruined in some form or fashion.
Right. And people just can't help themselves.
Yeah.
They got to make
to ruin it. It's like,
And believe me, Fede, I believe he wants to do right by the franchise. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I've seen some of his films and what I've seen is good, but you just never know.
Right.
And it absolutely wouldn't alter how much I care about aliens if it's bad, but you just like, you always hope, man, maybe they'll,
maybe
late in the game jam.
Will be good.
Yeah, late in the game jam would be great.
Right. There's been some of those. There's been those rare, like, franchise returning.
I'm trying to think of one right now.
Like 2049.
2049.
I heard that
wasn't perfect, but it had a lot of good things.
It was good.
Why? I know there was one that was on my mind the other day, or I was thinking about the other day. I cannot think of what it is, though.
A little bit of an older one. I liked Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah.
But that was kind of made in the era before the current era of film we're in.
That's true.
Well, Furiosa just recently came out.
Yeah.
Didn't like it as much as
I never saw
Fury
that.
That's
Road,
like an origin for that character or something.
Yeah, so it was kind of like in the world of Mad Max, but there is no Mad Max.
Right.
Kind of a weird time to put it out, but I enjoyed it.
We're going to be like halfway through talking about Acolyte. I'm going to remember what the movie is I'm thinking of.
Just spit it out whenever it comes to mind.
I mean, I haven't seen it, but I'm hearing great things about Deadpool and Wolverine, and that's kind of like a I don't know. I feel like that's in the vein of like the X-Men movies,
X-Men and Marvel at this point.
So it's kind of like, it doesn't sound like it's fallen into any of the pitfalls of like recent stuff,
Yeah, I think they somehow lucked out there because Ryan Reynolds and whoever the other guy, the writer is, specifically make I was watching a video the other day and they were talking about how they literally would like send in things that they were almost certain were going to get kicked back and say you need to change, and they never did.
I think it's because, I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but I think it's partly because of Ryan Reynolds' reputation. Like, he's a Hollywood Family Guy, seems like a good dude, I mean, as far as I can remember, hasn't done anything crazy publicly or whatever, tends to make good films.
Yeah.
And so I think, and also just like the angle of Deadpool is very like, this is supposed to be kind of an extreme comedy.
Right.
So I would assume they would get a pass for a lot of things automatically.
For sure. Yeah, that's kind of, I think just it being a Deadpool movie in general, I think they also weren't as, like, the higher ups weren't as, like, focused on making it how they wanted it, because I think in their mind, it's a Deadpool. It's geared towards a specific audience. It's not like a mainstream Marvel movie.
Yeah.
So that helped them out too, I think.
It's nice whenever the executives, I don't know if I should say humility, but you have to have enough humility to realize you don't understand why something is successful and just let the people that make it successful, like, cook, you know?
Well, the people that, like, there's a lot of people right now that are like,
we got the bankers cooking.
they're like coming out against it. There are some different actors and actresses that are coming out against it.
Against Deadpool
and Wolverine. Or like, or just like the media people that are coming out against it, but the reasons they're coming out for are the exact reason why it's such a good movie. Like, who was it? Freaking Whoopi, what's her name? Whoopi Goldberg? Is that her name?
Whoopi?
She was coming out saying how it's...
Not Whoopi.
I know, right?
I can't watch it.
How it was like this awful, like how they made this Marvel movie are, you know, they're just, it's not kid friendly at all. And everyone's just like, that's the point. Whoopi. It's Deadpool.
I think
Whoopi wishes she was in that movie.
I think it's fine for those types of movies to be made. I think those are in some way like a good thing, you know. It's kind of like, let's just go enjoy something that we don't have to take so seriously. And that's by no means a knock on those type of films, but because it's done with respect. Well, seems to be to the source material and to the characters.
100%. I mean, it's what it's intended for. That Deadpool is that character. I'm pretty sure Deadpool was originally made as a joke character that was like in response to DC making Deathstroke. Yeah. And they literally made this other character, Deadpool, and it was meant to be a joke. Like, that was the point. And then he just kind of blew up, especially with his whole antics of breaking the fourth wall and all that stuff. I mean, his comics are... The thing, too, is if you read his comics, they're also very R-rated. Like, it's not like just a movie thing. He was intentionally meant to be that type of character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the people who don't understand that are the people who don't like the movie. And that's fine. You don't have to like the movie. But don't get mad when a movie does well because of this specific thing. You know?
Yeah. Right.
But everything I don't like should be banned.
Exactly. I know some people get mad. They're like, well, how come it's funny when Deadpool dances in his movie, but when She-Hulk did it, it was cringy? It's like, because
it was cringy.
It was cringy. And Deadpool, it's the point of Deadpool is to be stupid and cringy. Like,
oh, man.
It's just insane.
We should watch She-Hulk.
Oh, no. No, I might shoot my brains out.
Man, I don't know if I could do that. See, I still have some level of investment in the name Star Wars, so I could swallow this one, but I wouldn't call myself a Marvel guy. I enjoy Marvel from time to time. I don't know if I could stomach that, man.
Yeah.
I also don't care.
I saw the memes and I felt that I saw enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so bad that like the haters didn't even do a lot of videos on it, as opposed to the Acolyte.
Right.
It's
like it spoke for itself.
Apparently.
Well, let's go on. So now that we've laid the groundwork here, talking about dipping toes in franchises and doing well. You guys ready? You guys want to take any kind of break?
I gotta go pee.
Okay, we'll take a quick pause and talk about Jeremiah on mic.
Yep. That's a great time.
We are back. We are live. This is all going on the episode. Maybe
I don't know if my new bosses are going to listen.
I'll clean it up.
Change the names to protect the guilty.
Yeah, that was not Alex. That was Balix, and that was Jeremiah. And now Alex and Jeremiah are back, taking the rightful places.
I hate myself.
Because Balix is BA Alex. That's why.
Ooh.
Jeremiah cares a lot.
I like that.
Yeah. Right. The opposite of
Jeremiah, who hates everybody and doesn't give a crap. The paramedic.
You're a healthcare professional. You're allowed to hate.
I had to pull a trainee.
Just not if you use the force.
Complete tangent, but I had to pull a trainee aside the other day because we were restraining a patient and the cops were there. And when you restrain and stuff like that, and they're being mean.
Did you get to yell righteous anger?
No, he did tell me I was dead. And then he told me that I'm going to suffer. And I looked him dead in the eyes and said, I'm already suffering. And proceeded to stab him with an IV, a very large bore IV in his arm. But...
I thought you were talking about the trainee that you were talking about.
Yeah, I thought you were about to straighten my man's out. I was like, wait, no. I'm confused.
We were just restraining. No, we were restraining this patient. I had a... Because when you restrain a patient and you don't listen, the guy's being rude, people are free with their mouths, especially when this guy's like being a jerk and he's all like drunk or whatever.
I'm like KG in the post, man. I love the trash talk.
The cops are there as well, and so I had to kind of pull my. She's like brand new, like this is like her 4th or 5th day, and I was like, just for fair warning, be very cautious about what you say because their body cameras are still on. And I noticed the cops had walked out when a lot of the others were being kind of
this is you warning the trainee.
Being like, just a heads up, like we kind of are free with our tongues sometimes, and maybe we shouldn't be, but just like specifically when cops are around, their body cameras on. Be very careful.
Mom's in the next room.
Yes.
Nice.
Anyway, you can cut that out later on. But
no.
Okay.
That's the lead.
How does that story conclude, I wonder?
That's the lead into
the guy got a bunch of her said and held all. Took a little nappy nap. After he threatened all of us.
Slept it off.
He told the cop, I believed in you.
He won.
And I was like, well, maybe you shouldn't have done that.
He won.
He did win. He really did. He had a better nap than me. Anyway.
Well, where to begin? So we were talking about starting positive.
Giving it a fair shot.
What we like, what we think is done well.
Or at least decent.
Or passable.
I have a couple of things.
There's a few things that I think were not horrible.
A few, that's a strong word, but I have a couple things.
I'll just say the first, even on episode 3, I was interested. Like I was like,
I'm lost.
Like so for me, the first 3 episodes, I was like, okay, I'm interested. Like you're pulling me along. I don't like I don't like some things in like that I'm hearing and seeing, but I'm intrigued. You know, like the whole thing's starting out with like, there's a Jedi that gets killed, but then there's another Jedi who's like been meditating for 16 years, or no, he hasn't talked to him for 10 years.
He's been meditating for 10 years.
Whatever happened 16 years ago, but he's been meditating for 10 years. And he's like unresponsive, like force, like shield. And I'm like, what in the world happened to this guy?
Force-induced coma.
So, I don't know, like, 'cause there's just like stuff like that was like, it drops you in to, and gives you a lot of, that raises a lot of interesting questions. And that's really the way the show is built, is like there's these interesting questions and it keeps pulling you along. The answers are where I think it falls apart.
To give it a fair go, the first 2 episodes were enough to be like, okay, I'm interested. I can be interested in what's happening. The show lost me at episode 3. And I'll explain more when we get to the whatever, because they're trying to keep this positive. Was okay. I had issues as well, things in the first 2 episodes, which we'll get into and all that. But like, it was enough to be like, okay, I can look over some of the things that I dislike about this to figure out what's happening or what's going on. So I'll give it at least that. And then I do think the one redeeming thing that the show has is Smilo Ren, the Sith guy. I thought I enjoyed him when he was revealed as a character. He got a little annoying in the later episodes, but I thought like after episode 5 and 6, I wish the show had just specifically revolved around him. I thought he was interesting enough that he could have done something. It could have been cool.
Could have been. And
I liked I will say that I liked episode 5. I liked
even vaguely capable hands.
Yes, I liked episode 5. I liked the combat in episode 5. I think that's an episode where I was kind of able to shut my brain off a little bit and just enjoy the combat. I think if I turned it on and like really focused on it, I'd probably see things I didn't like. But but at the same time, I liked the ruthlessness of the Sith guy. I liked the killing of these characters. I thought that was very well done. So I'll give the show that. I did like him, and I do. For the first 6 episodes, I liked Master Soul a lot. I thought he was a good character.
I liked Soul a lot for most of the show. Well, I mean, this will get talked about a lot more, but I like Soul, and I think that his character was mangled in the episode 7. He's basically like, you see the it's so immersion breaking. I'm trying not to get negative, but I'll get into that. I'll pull myself back.
Rein it in.
Pull me back, Alex.
Unleash.
It gives
Soul
you focus.
Is maybe the best character in the show.
Strong.
The actor does a great job with the stuff that makes sense. I like his Padawan. I don't know what her name was.
Jackie.
I liked his Padawan like throughout the show a lot. She had
Jackie Brown.
She probably had the best. Like in that duel, I thought she had some of the coolest stuff. Where she's like dual wielding and
is a point of irritation for me, but
okay,
we'll get there. We'll get there.
All right, so I think that's the main.
What about you, Alex?
Stuff.
There are a precious few things. So the gentleman who plays Soul, I do not know his name, but Squid Game guy.
Yes.
Oh, he's in Squid Game.
Yeah.
He was main guy from Squid Game.
Oh, okay.
He does a commendable job. In fact, I would go so far as to say he gives a good performance with what he's given. And in fact, I read that he didn't really speak English fluently.
He learned it
prior to, and he had a dialect coach working with him to help him speak his lines, learn his lines. And I thought his pronunciation was great without losing his accent.
I loved like how he talked. Like I thought he
and
he delivered his lines very well for like learning English.
Yeah. And I also read that he watched a few of the Star Wars movies, specifically the prequels, because he wanted, or I can't remember. I remember the Phantom Menace being mentioned by name, and then I can't remember which other ones he watched. But he paid attention to Qui-Gon Jinn specifically. Yes. He enjoyed Liam Neeson's portrayal of Qui-Gon Jinn, and so he was kind of, tip of the hat.
That's what I was going to say. Is he does give a very strong Qui-Gon vibes.
Yeah.
If only they let him be more like Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, I just thought the writing was so terrible that he, like I said, he did a great job with what he had, but he had next to nothing. I enjoyed, there were a few moves in the fights, probably specifically episode 5, that were good when they catch up to Smiler Ren after he breaks off, and Soul pulls him towards what do you call it when you hit someone in the chest?
Like a clothesline?
Clothesline, yeah.
Okay.
Pulls him into a clothesline from Jackie's saber. She's standing behind him.
Yeah.
So he pulls it, and it was that's an interesting concept. We don't ever really see, surprisingly, Jedis using the Force to set up someone else.
Collaborating.
Yeah. So it's a shame because there are interesting or underutilized ideas sprinkled in there, but I mean the execution in more cases than not just really falls short. And then some of Smiler Ren's moves, I also thought it was just refreshing how ruthless they allowed him to be. I wish when he had that one guy stabbed and then he force pulled the other dude to him and it the camera slammed behind these two trees. Come on, man, just because what he does a little later, you could get away with that,
right?
Just let him go all out,
right?
But I did enjoy how much they let him do. He even got to kill a Jedi without a weapon, so to speak. Ridiculous concept.
They also
we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I have thoughts about that because they missed a phenomenal. I thought I at a moment I'm tangent. I thought I knew what they were meaning there, but then when I watched the last 2 episodes, I was like, oh, so they just completely dropped the ball on this because they had a perfect opportunity to set something up really nice and they didn't. We'll go into that later. Continue.
Yeah, and then I thought the overall look of the show was pretty good. You would hope so for a $180 million budget that it would look halfway decent.
Yeah, it did look good.
They used.
I didn't like the lightsabers, but
I'll say it looks better than every Disney produced show aside from maybe season 1 Mando and Andor.
Yeah.
But that's not a terribly high bar to clear, to be honest. And I thought they utilized a lot of like aliens. They made them look real.
Yeah.
Like pretty real considering, television.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought there was some good work done there. That's about where my praise ends.
I was thinking just another thing I was thinking when I was watching it, that it feels, one thing, and I know some of it was COVID stuff, but it was also budget stuff. Oh, the Obi-Wan show, like, this show didn't feel like, even though there weren't a ton of scenes with a ton of actors in them, but it didn't feel like they were constrained. You know what I mean? Like, there were episodes of Obi-Wan where it just felt like we have to be on a small set. We can only, you know what I mean? Like, it just felt like it was a TV show budget. And this felt a little bit more like, a little bigger in scope stuff. I could have done with more faraway shots in the Jedi Temple, where you felt like the Jedi Temple was bigger. But
see, that's where I disagree with both of you. I felt, for how much of a budget they had, I feel like it was very underproduced. I feel like the quality was not that great. It felt like a TV show. I feel like they dropped the ball, like with the Jedi Temple. It felt very constrained, very small.
Okay, I would give you that caveat. The Jedi Temple specifically looked pretty bad.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I just, like, me personally, I just didn't feel like it was. Yeah. With how much money they had.
I mean, it's a small movie.
Like, for example, and this is one that's been brought up by a bunch of people, especially on YouTube. The budget for this show per episode, like, if you break it down, it's like what, 40,000, 20-some thousand million, or $1 million, not thousand, $1 million per episode. Yeah. That is, I think, almost quadruple what.
When you put it that way, because the average episode time is like 38, 39 minutes. Ooh, yeah, no, when you put it that way.
That's average.
It'd be like,
that's average all together with like the intro, the flashback.
Like 20 million.
The episode, I think it's like 30, I think, roughly. But if you take out the intro, the flashback, or the recap, and you take out the credits, each episode is less, usually, except for the last two, are less than 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
The credits are long. They're like 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah. And so that was an issue. And then also, if you
praising a lot of people for this stuff,
if you go back to a movie that it was compared to was, well, actually a few things compared to. One though was that Godzilla -1 on Netflix was apparently, I had never watched it, apparently phenomenally produced, looks phenomenal, and had the one episode of The Acolyte had like 4 times the budget. Mm-hmm. And it's so, or like, a good example, the House of the Dragon had a smaller budget.
Yeah, really?
Than The Acolyte.
Oh, ooh,
yeah,
that's a bad look.
And those
that show looks.
And those are like
really
an hour-long episodes too. Those are the shows that are very well produced and take the time that it needs. Whereas The Acolyte is just like, there are episodes in there that 2 of them should have been put together as one episode.
Yeah,
I think episode 4 and 5 were like that. Those should have been one episode.
Well, episode 4 is
borderline use.
85% of it is nonsense.
Yeah,
it's the classic. There's like 1 or 2 of these in every season of every show they produce. It's like, we don't have enough story.
It's filler when you shouldn't need filler.
We need to stretch this over as many episodes as we possibly can.
That was them walking through the woods to the Kalnaka's hut, and that's when May decides to flip-flop her entire everything out of nowhere.
That was a whole episode.
That was a whole episode. And it ends when Smiler Ren comes in.
Right. It ends like right before the fighting. I remember that.
And then you have the next episode being the fighting. Those 2 should have been one episode. And you probably should have cut out some of the walking. Yeah. And nonsense conversations that are happening.
Yeah.
Small gripe I have that I'm going to throw out there. I noticed it mainly in this last episode. You have a couple scenes where there's like multiple Jedi, like specifically when Vernestra's doing things, she just brings a posse of Jedi with her for some god awful reason. And
you mean anti-Pickle Rick?
Yes. And they do nothing. They walk, and then they run, and then they do nothing.
No. They're there to die.
But they don't even die.
Well, hers don't.
Hers don't. That's what I'm
Which
saying.
is puzzling.
You can't even die.
Like, I remember when they're chasing after at the very cutting ahead, very last episode, and they're chasing after May and Osha and Smiler Ren, and they're like using the tracker that was also no clue what he was all about.
I hated that thing.
But they're like chasing after them, but they're like,
but
they're walking.
Beazle.
Brazil. Beazle.
The they them.
Oh,
is
Beazle's
he or the? Come on.
Oh, is that's whenever? Oh, yeah.
But they're walking. They're like he like found the scent, and then also they're just like walking. I'm like, huh? And then they get a little bit closer. Now they're running, and then they get there and they just do nothing. I'm like, why are the Jedi like going in posses like this? It's always been like one or two Jedi at most going off.
You send a master and his boy because that's how they learn.
Exactly. You don't send a posse of
Youngblood watches big homie take care of business and he assists him, and that's how he becomes knight and
it
yada
just,
yada.
Threw me off the amount of Jedi that were there that were pointless.
I mean, even for the most important investigation up to that point, you know, what's actually behind the plot of blah, 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 blah in episode 2, it's just Obi-Wan out there.
Mm-hmm. Because that's all they need. That's what the Jedi... The Jedi are, for the most part, supposed to be spread thin, even at this time and point. Not like spread thin, but like the galaxy's big. They're not all supposed to just be sitting around doing nothing.
The world building is upside down and inside out whenever they want it to be.
But that's a jumping ahead to an issue that just it was fresh on my mind because
let's start a little bit. We don't have to do episode by episode per se, but like just early. Let's start like pre-episode 3 because episode 3 like I
have an issue from episode 1.
Go on.
You continue, Josh.
No, that's what I want to know. Like, what are some issues with like the first 2 episodes?
The show started off on the wrong foot for me this way, and even though I said that the first episodes drew me in, there were a lot of issues that I had, and it starts with the fight between May and Indara because Disney cannot stay consistent with themselves. They make. How many people have we seen be stabbed by lightsabers and live? A lot. She got stabbed with a 2-inch knife.
Here's this tiny little knife.
And she dies.
Was it in her heart, though?
No.
Because I was looking at it, I was like, it was on the wrong side.
It was in her chest.
It was on the right side, but that's not deep enough.
Yeah, there was no way it was deep enough. Even if it was, she wouldn't instantly...
The mouse cares, but...
It doesn't. But she wouldn't instantly die, especially as a Jedi. Jedi can also... You know, they have all these things. I don't know. But, like, once again, they can heal. We've had people who were stabbed. What's her name from...
And then she went back in time to teach everybody.
Yeah, Riva got stabbed twice.
To teach Smiler Ren.
And it's just like, once again, Disney cannot stay consistent.
Yeah.
Where you're gonna throw a knife.
You gotta be careful. Because, like, at this point, with how many people we've seen stabbed and survived or died, it's just... You've got to be very clear why they're dying.
Well, the old joke was there's more loose body parts in the Star Wars galaxy than a bowl of Wendy's chili.
Right.
And now everyone is Swiss. Everybody's been stabbed.
Yeah.
Yep.
But, you know, it's all good.
Instead of everyone getting their hand chopped off.
And it's
not everyone is as angry as Darth Maul to survive.
It's like, for the first time, we actually had a person that I think should have lived from being stabbed. And they die instantly.
That's how they get you.
You know what?
Insane.
You know what
Subversion.
I don't like about that fight? And they do this a couple times. Is the whole, like, I'm not drawing my lightsaber thing. It's like, we don't attack an unarmed opponent, and then she starts throwing knives at you and attacking you, and you're still not drawing your lightsaber. Just draw your lightsaber and end her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I mean, you think of like Obi-Wan in the cantina. He just whipped out his lightsaber and cut the guy's arm off. You're done. You don't have an arm now.
Well, the Jedi Order didn't exist at that time, to be fair. So he was like, no.
Well, he does it in.
I'm a free
he does it in episode 2.
I'm a free agent, baby.
With the shapeshifter.
Yep.
That's true, but he doesn't capture her, does he not?
He does.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, they're trying to capture her, but she's also got a gun.
He does, but like
old Ben,
he dismembers her to
has
capture
had
her.
enough of that business.
he had his whatever.
Yeah,
he's already angry
cocktail.
at Anakin, so he
was
had to
he drinking?
I guess he did have a... Well, they were trying to give him death sticks.
He didn't have the death sticks, but
he didn't have the death sticks.
He had the
He had the good sense to deny the death sticks.
Just not the alcohol.
He had the glowing out liquor, but...
hey, kid, everybody's got a vice. Doesn't have to be the worst one.
But so I just can't... And like, Soul does it later on.
His is cutting arms off.
Too. You know, where he's like just not drawing his lightsaber, and I'm like, well, your friend died because they wouldn't draw a lightsaber. Can someone please just like get their lightsaber out and like mean business?
Yeah, there's a lot of cringe stuff in this show, isn't there, Red?
Yeah, it's just... Well, not only that, I can actually...
Attack me with all your strength.
Yes, I was going to say, before
what are we doing?
You don't even go to Andara dying. The show starts off bad.
You can't do that with a character that we've never met. Like, if you saw this character, like, build towards, like, this angry, like, I'm angry, I want a Jedi to attack me so I can kill him, or something, that's one thing. But you start off with that, and it's goofy. It's like you're a goofy character.
There are choices you can make. Like, okay, you can...
Or just attack her.
You can run... Exactly. You can run with that general setup, but, like, let's do some critical thinking here. If she wants to... make the Jedi attack her first, for whatever reason. Immediately, like, swoop in and surprise attack one of her homies. Skip your little cringe intro. Yeah. Just get to business. Because the second you start, you know, moving these characters' mouths, I'm immediately losing interest because they have the AI robots writing their dialogue.
Yeah, you know what would have been better, honestly, is they should have considered this was supposed to be an Acolyte, a show about the Sith. They should have had her come in there, pull a knife. I mean, it's a Star Wars Disney, so it's a kid show, but they pull a knife and you stab the companion in the neck. That's going to get the Jedi angry. That's going to get her to fight you.
They let Smilo Ren, you know...
It's true. They let him get naked.
A little close to the edge.
They let him get naked.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff in this show.
Like, I agree, like,
passion.
Starting, like, if you want to get her to fight you, like, you want to get her angry to fight you so that you can do whatever the reason is, there's a better ways to do it than fight me, Jedi, or whatever the heck she says.
Well, it immediately sets the tone. Okay, this character means business. They're not here to talk the talk. They're here to walk the walk. We actually have an imposing villain on our hands. But no, she just, you know, and she repeats her cringe phrase later again to the man in the coma.
And then Andara says, unidentified Force user. Like, doesn't she say that in that fight?
Yeah, she does witness her use the Force.
She sees her use the Force, and she calls it in.
Yeah.
And still proceeds to not.
It's like unidentified. It's like, do they have a registry? You know, do you have to have like a concealed carry for using the Force?
Whoever's listening, bro.
They're the Force cops, remember?
Well, like, that's what I'm saying is, like, that's the kind of thing that's like, when you first see it, you're
biggest plot hole in the show. Everyone should know. She calls it in.
But it's like, when you see it, it's like...
Don't you remember Qui-Gon when he invites Darth Maul, goes, I fought an unidentified Force user.
Right. No, he's like...
Someone trained in the Jedi arts is what he says, which makes more sense.
Thank you.
The council's like, yeah, well...
Like,
it sucks to suck, dude.
George
Deal
Lucas
with it.
dialogue look
Trade
amazing.
routes, okay? Get in line.
We got with other issues, bro.
With your unidentified Force users.
The point is, like, the way the rest of Star Wars, like, film, you know, I don't really care about, like, if you can cite something in the lore where it's similar, or if the High Republic books have done that, they have painted it this way. But what the common viewer, know about the Jedi, and what we've already seen, is like, we do understand that other people use the Force besides Jedi.
Mm.
You know, you even see in Rogue One a guy who's not a Jedi who has some connection with the Force, and he's not, you see in Clone Wars, like, so we understand that other people have different views of the Force and use it differently. And the Jedi don't police them.
Well, that was part of the point too. I mean,
unless they're Sith, unless they're using the dark side. And that was like, you know, and like a thing, and even in Episode 4, the originals were like, when Obi-Wan is explaining the Force, it's seen as like this all-encompassing power, this
very religious type of thing, and the Jedi are just kind of seen as like a sect of this. I mean, you even have Leia in the originals who is Force sensitive, but isn't a Jedi, never becomes a Jedi, and doesn't really use the Force in that way.
Yeah, we see her connect to Luke in some way in the Force, and so there's precedent for that even from the beginning.
And then what, like, Anakin Skywalker is a 9-year-old boy who has never seen. He is technically an unidentified Force user at that age. And they didn't come find him. They just happened to come across him. And Qui-Gon literally took him because he was like, I think he's the chosen one. That's literally probably the only reason he took him. Otherwise, he probably would have said, screw you, bud. Figure it out.
People's attitudes and decision-making, like across the board, often doesn't line up with what their views should be based on what we know about them. Like, the fact that this is getting a little down the road, but the fact that this whole investigation is launched... Like, Yoda should be involved from jump. Because as far as they know very early on, Force user kills Jedi. I mean, and my boy, Ki-Adi Mundi himself.
Right.
Who makes a surprise appearance.
I don't understand the dynamic in that whole scene.
We'll get there.
It's like, okay, because he's like
in the prequels, he says the Sith have been extinct for a millennia.
Right.
This should be a like.
I think it's very purposeful that he's the one that's in the show.
This should be a Chernobyl level event. This is like unprecedented.
Well, that's how it is in Episode 1. And it's like we got to go talk to the Council right away about this.
And these Jedi are like, we made an oopsie. We need to. What? Yeah. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Oh,
it's tore up from the floor up, brother.
But, so. I still thought it was interesting, like, I still think the premise is something crazy happened 16 years ago. There's these 4 Jedi. It starts to connect. I don't remember. Episode 1, Indara dies. Then we get introduced to Osha, and she's on this thing, and she's being accused of it, and then
this is going to be this is a continuous gripe throughout the entirety of the show. The writing is very bad, and by very bad, I don't just mean like the dialogue, but I mean like they shoehorn in things and just expect the audience to be like, yeah, okay, without thinking about it. For example, the Osha thing. I don't care if someone... This is a scientific, very advanced era in general. Like Star Wars is an advanced, it's a sci-fi. I don't care if a bartender says, yeah, that's her. That's what she looked like. There's literally zero possible way that she could have done what she... I mean, if someone like mapped it out, but there's like no possible way she could have gone and done that thing in one day and then been back on her ship the other day without anybody on the ship noticing that she left. Like, that's not possible.
Also, I mean, Soul should, this point, Soul should immediately come forward with what he knows, because it almost seems like, well, I mean, you can kind of assume that he's delaying information to protect himself based on what we find out later. Like, what happens later,
he's justifying himself.
Completely and utterly destroys this character.
Right.
And
that's why,
like, right from jump, if he actually is who we watch him be over the course of the show, he should immediately speak up right now, because he could solve this wham bam thank you ma'am.
Right.
And so I mean, we're immediately,
I mean, he does start talking to his Padawan and Yord about it, start talking about stuff that they didn't know. Oh, she had a twin sister. Oh, that's not in the log, and so he does start to get this, but it is a very much, it's treated like let's try to handle this in house and in a small number of people as possible.
But then also just thinking this is a small gripe, but I just realized they talk about, well, that wasn't in her twin sister isn't in the file or whatever.
Yeah.
raise a flag.
Isn't everything blamed on May? She's the one who burned down the place. And then in episode 6, they say, "Oh, your sister burned down." Like, that's why is that not in the log?
Yeah, I noticed that they're like, there is actually no explanation based on what they say. It's like, we know there was a fire, everybody died but you. That's it, and that's all that's in her file. But they brought this child back from somewhere else, and suddenly.
Oh yeah.
Once again,
like they're just chill with not knowing anything, and then training her still, even though she's not of age.
Once again, it's writing that they're just expecting the audience to be like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, they just fill in the gaps, man. Whatever you want,
exactly.
Write it yourself.
Apparently.
Hey, choose your own adventure.
Ooh, look, it's a choose your own adventure show.
We're mad living out here. Okay.
I choose to turn it off and not watch it.
Random character.
So,
Kiadi Mundi. There must be.
So, what are your feelings about what's his name? The second Jedi that dies by
Yord
killing himself with the poison.
Oh, Corbin. Torben.
Yeah.
I think that he is the
Young
most
Oldman.
Useless, poorly written character in almost any television I've ever seen. This man. Okay, first it was like, oh, he's in a trance for 10 years because he's upset about what happened 16 years ago. Okay, fine. That's all right. What's interesting? Wonder what happened. We find out what happened. His entire point in that whole episode is he must go back to Coruscant because he's a little baby, which is dumb. He gets his mind taken over because he wants to go back to Coruscant, and then he gets attacked by a Wookiee, and then he goes into a coma for 10 years. It doesn't track. That's the stupidest thing in the world.
Yeah, because
guilt. Like, that's how it's portrayed.
What? He didn't do anything.
Yeah, he doesn't actually have a hand in a direct hand in any of the actual people dying.
Except for being racing off, but the thing is, like, Soul was clearly gonna go.
But then I also stand by this position.
Excuse for it to.
In episode 6, they portrayed the Jedi, or episode 7, they portrayed the Jedi as being the bad guys in that situation. I hold the opinion that they did absolutely nothing wrong.
The Jedi did nothing wrong.
Not completely. I shouldn't say you shouldn't do nothing wrong.
I wouldn't agree with you there. I would say they were in the wrong because there seems to be this obsession. It's like a common theme I see. And I'm not saying...
In the show or what?
Well, across shows that the Jedi are often portrayed as either incompetent or malicious on some level, or both at the same time. Like, I am struggling to think of an example where the Jedi Order as was portrayed in like a strictly positive light in like the recent media. Disney, Star Wars, pretty much.
Well, a lot of that's looking back on the Jedi and their hubris at the point of which the Republic fell. Which is like, that's documented, that's fair. But this is 100 years before the High Republic. It's supposed to be like a golden age for the Jedi, but instead it's like
they're already seen as like
they're already like
these a-holes that just roam the galaxy.
I didn't get that.
Make life hard for people.
Let me rephrase that too. Not that they shouldn't have barged in there, and I do. And why I get very disappointed in Saul at episode 7 is because his character motivations in that episode is the stupidest thing in the world. And so I do think he's wrong there. That being said, I don't think him killing the mom is wrong. They're there and it's escalating, and then she turns into a gigantic smoke monster.
I don't think when he chose to do it was... I don't think killing her was wrong, but I think when he chose to do it was wrong.
I kind of feel that's kind of how I feel about it. Like, but I don't. It's like I don't blame him. I blame the writers, those who made him, his makers. Like, that's really how. Honestly, that's how I feel about Soul. I feel like he was like. It's like if you make something and you make it imperfectly on purpose, and then it just like Frankenstein, and then it destroys the village because it's a horrifying creature. Like, that's how Soul is in episode 7. It's like, what am I? Like, why did you make me this way?
I guess more what I'm saying is he shouldn't feel guilty for having killed her. I think in that scenario where they're talking, and all of a sudden, once again, she's like, it's getting heated, and she turns into this gigantic smoke demon creature monster.
But he doesn't know what she's going to do.
It's so fast. You
see her do it, and then he looks at her. But they portray it. But they portray it as he does know what's happening, because he looks over at May and he sees the smoke traveling towards her.
Right.
And so he pulls out his lightsaber and he stabs her.
That's
what happens.
What it is they've been laying the bread, these kind of laying breadcrumbs of, like, he's so sure that they're in danger, and he's got to protect them, and he's got to. One of them's got to be his Padawan.
I agreed.
And so I'm saying, I'm saying, like, that's what he's thinking. But that's why he needs to do it.
Even without that, if there is a person that is using the Force, I saw her mind control one of the Padawans, and all of a sudden she turns into a giant smoke demon. She's getting stabbed. I don't care what she's doing.
You know what? Force cops. It's the Force cops again. It's like literally it's literally like the cop that shows up and doesn't really understand what's happening. It's like that story. That's literally what is happening with Soul there. It's like he doesn't understand what's happening. He thinks he's understands. He sees a move. He pulls his weapon and it goes off, and then it's like, oh.
But once again, and this is reinforced.
He was in the wrong hood.
This is literally reinforced. I think they're wrong. The Jedi are wrong for being there. But since they're there, I think that the witches become to be in the wrong at this point. Because if you look 5 minutes after she turned into the smoke thing and get stabbed, the other one turns into a smoke creature, and they take control of Kalnaka.
Right.
That's what she was doing.
She was going to take care of May.
He wasn't wrong. I don't know what she was going to do, but he was not wrong in killing her. I truly do not think so.
What you're saying,
or at least he shouldn't feel guilty about it.
He wasn't wrong to see that as a. Like some aggressive move or like escalation. It's literally Force cops. It's literally
you were in a situation like
she reached for her waistband basically.
And I don't see that except far more aggressive because she turns into a smoke demon.
Is that a Twix in your pocket or?
I'm telling you. That's the thing though about the show is there are these little. Well, not little, like big enough. There's these big enough tweaks because they're trying to push it all this direction.
Well, they're trying to make the Jedi be bad. They're trying to make them into the bad guys.
Right. It's like this whole thing that you start
I get if you want to tell that kind of story, but
the angle is weird, though.
Yeah, it's hard for me to think on this level because my problem with the show, first and foremost, is like in its very construction. So it's hard for me to be like, I'm invested in this story because I think it doesn't function properly as it's laid out, because the switch when they're in the forest, you get to that point, May.
Yeah.
When all of a sudden she wants to change teams.
So May's been killing Jedi
with no warning.
Yeah,
she has not
vengefully. It's not like she's being forced to, but there is like a hint.
Thinking about this a long time.
There's a hint that if she doesn't do, because she made a deal, that she kind of has to follow through with it.
Yeah,
but
also her own desire.
And
then very suddenly she's like, "I'm done.
To do this.
I'm turning you in."
She's like, "I just realized I don't have to do this." She literally says that.
Osha's alive. It changes everything.
Yeah. Osha's alive. It changes everything. Why?
Because in your mind, they still killed everyone, all your entire family.
Yeah. And she saw her mother be killed by a Jedi. I mean,
wouldn't she?
I'm getting so upset.
Also assume? Would she not also assume that? I mean, she fell. I would guess she looked up and saw Osha not fall. So wouldn't she also assume that she could have made it?
In episode 8, they say that she was pulled into that chute.
Oh,
that's how she survived the fall. Yeah, they pulled like a Luke Skywalker thing. I was pulled into this chute. That one made me cringe.
And it's like perfectly perpendicular to that.
It's like what was in Star Wars before that we could explain this? It's like copy and paste.
It's like copy and paste. It's dropped into the worst.
But then it's like copy and paste, and then like the resolution, there's like missing pixels. Like it's.
They don't change the
crappier version.
Yeah, they don't change the words around what they've just inserted into that sentence. Doesn't make sense. But like from very early on, that's what I'm talking about. That whole setup right there, because if she doesn't do that, the story unfolds completely differently.
Right. Yeah. I mean, well, if she like what?
Because they handle business and then they leave.
If she wouldn't kill Kalnak because he wasn't dead. It's implied that he was killed when she is going to go turn herself into him.
Yeah.
That Smilerin, like,
he's found
gets ahead of her,
freshly killed, so to speak.
So she would have tried to kill Kalnaka, and I guess Osha probably wouldn't have gotten like knocked unconscious the same way because she got knocked unconscious by May. Yeah, but okay. So let's talk about episode 3 a little bit and what's wrong with episode 3.
This for me is where this is where the lore breaking begins.
This is really
not where the fun begins, but the lore breaking.
Ass over elbow, and we get to witness the magic of Disney filmmaking.
Yes,
shine. This is where it really comes to life.
Take us in.
So, flashback, fine, good enough. I'm tired of this. The whole show is just filled with stupid like phrases that like the twins say. I make you me, and cringy and dumb. On top of the stupid song that the witches sing, makes me want to harm myself in ways.
I don't know. I genuinely don't understand what's up with the dialogue because it's in all the shows now that all the dialogue is flat, cliche. People are talking past each other and explaining things that we know.
How they're feeling.
Yeah. And they're explaining things that we've witnessed, things that we know. And there's a few that really stand out. When May is originally attacking Indara, we're knuckles deep into the fight already, and Indara goes, what is your purpose or whatever? And May goes, I am here to kill you. I'm just like,
Indara goes, oh, I didn't realize, I'm so sorry.
And then
shall we continue?
Before on that night, the bridges are about to collapse or whatever, they're separated by that divide or whatever, and they're like, what have you done? And the other one's like, what have you done? And then they go for a third one.
What have you done?
The first one goes, no, what have you done? I'm like, what are we doing?
What have I done?
It's like this. It's
the
like
power of one.
Experimenting with us. Like, at first, it was Skinwalker Luke, okay? And then they're like, let's push that a step further. Let's just make AI do everyone, write all the dialogue. And it just comes out this very in what show was he in? Mando, right? Yeah, Skinwalker Luke, right? And it's like, and then they AI'd Darth Vader's voice, and now they're just like, let's just have AI write
the dialogue,
everybody's words, and everybody speaks the same. It's just these vague statements that are meant to be, somehow esoteric and deeper than what's on the surface, and they just speak at each other.
Which episode here? I mean, because here the encapsulation of the show of like what the point of the show is, and the way that what's done, a large part of what's done to the lore and what's done to the characters, is encapsulated in the line about an acolyte. Remember that? Was it the end of episode 2? To kill the dream. Kill the
Smilo Ren's delivering his cringe monologue.
The Jedi believe that everyone shares the same dream, whatever. And something about an acolyte. You need an acolyte to kill the dream.
That might be one of the later episodes when he's talking to Osha.
No, he's talking to May.
Oh.
It's early on.
Well, why are you looking that up?
The Jedi also live in a dream they believe everybody has. Hold on. Go on.
I was just going to say, like, my biggest issue with the third episode is and I don't care how you twist, how you turn it, how you try to justify it, whatever. Osha and May being born to the Force is extremely lore breaking. I don't care if you sit there and say, well, that there's no thing in the movies that say that was a strictly Anakin thing. I'm sorry, but it's very clearly pointed in the movies that Anakin being born strictly through the Force is a very strong pointing to him being the chosen one. It is not something that is seen. It's not something that is known. And then it gets worse when in episode 7 they talk about it, and they talk about how they have to end these. Part of the Saul saying they need to get these girls free from the witches is that the witch who did this had to be one of the most powerful Force users in the world to do this. Is literally what they say.
And she's just Kamehamehaing.
Like it's
in her demonstration.
And
the thread is not a force to be wielded. Now let's wield it at each other. Immediately after.
It's like
that's a common theme too.
Like that was like that's the thing where it's like here I am watching it and being like, okay, I'm kind of interested, I'm kind of intrigued, even though I know it's going to go off the rails, but I'm like trying to stick with it, and then it's like.
And then the whole virgins thing where the twins are this like virgins, but they're like also the same person. They're not actually twins. Like they have the same exact something count.
They say explicitly one conscience in two bodies. So I think that's word for word, if I'm not mistaken.
We're just copying the Bible now, I guess.
Well,
is that what's happening?
Okay, so they got the hat trick in this show, right? Because it seems the formula is we need to ruin a legacy character, we need to ruin the Force in some way, and we need to ruin one of our own new characters. Okay, so we'll get to Ki-Adi-Mundi. We need to ruin the Force. Okay, so in the prequels, Palpatine sort of hints at it when he's talking to Anakin at the play, right, in Revenge of the Sith, manipulating the midi-chlorians to create life or whatever, and then it's elaborated on a little bit later. Well, elaborated on. He tells him enough to get him hooked, right? That's seen as like it took two very well-trained Sith years and years to learn how to years and years of training and studying to learn how to do that. And it's implied that they did that not too long before the Phantom Menace. Well, obviously because Anakin's a young boy, right? And here these people are 40 years earlier or whatever, 100 years earlier, whatever it is. And this witch, who as far as we know has no formal Force training and advanced techniques or whatever. They seem to be kind of figuring it out. Right. She
just pulling on threads.
Yeah, manipulated the Force to create twins
they're one person, that's one consciousness that's split into two people.
Yeah, which
you never really see that actually play out as like meaning anything.
Yeah, they don't really do anything with that.
They don't even do like the Kylo, they don't do the Force dyad thing where it's like they're connected and they can connect through the Force across. They don't do that or anything.
Yeah, and it's like, so Zabrak lady,
right,
chick with the horns, carried the twins, so it's implied that she directly manifested them to start growing in another, like, what are,
it's implied that,
are we meant to
Anastasia,
believe
the leader, like planted them in her womb somehow,
right?
Like the Holy Spirit,
like directly there, like boom, we're right here in the room doing it,
right?
And are we meant to believe that's how it's done? Because that's another aspect of it. So are we meant to believe that Plagueis like kidnapped Shmi at some point? Is that what the...
Well, I don't know. I don't know. If with Plagueis, they didn't create Anakin, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure in the Plagueis...
They were messing around with creating life with the Force, and then the Force like responded back.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've read it, but I'm pretty sure, and this is old canon, so I try not to bring up the old canon stuff because I get it. Like, you can definitely justify that's not canon anymore. We shouldn't be holding to that. But that being said, the Plagueis book, I'm pretty sure, talks about how him and Palpatine, and Plagueis, mind you, has been messing around with life from the very beginning of the book when he still had a master. He messes around with trying to save mess around midi-chlorians with his master when his master's dying, when he kills him. He takes the time at the very beginning of the book to try and manipulate his midichlorians and bring him back alive.
I've never gone that far back. Like, I haven't read the Plagueis book or whatever. So it's not implied that Plagueis and Palpatine had some sort of hand in Anakin's creation. It's that the Force created Anakin in a response to what they were doing.
To create life, and the Force basically responded with. I'm pretty sure, once again, it's been a while since I read the book, so I'd have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure that's what's implied. That being said, I still, even if it was the other way where Plagueis and Palpatine specifically did create it, they didn't create it by kidnapping Shmi. Like, that just didn't happen.
I mean, it does feel like to your to back you up. It does feel like in Revenge of the Sith, there's hints from Palpatine that
in that speech he says
something to do with Anakin.
He says to create life. You could even manipulate the midichlorians to create life.
Is that how Anakin came?
Yeah.
But see,
I think we're meant to wonder that.
Yeah.
I'll always say that, me personally, I never thought that way. I never thought that's what I thought. It was he was strictly using it as he said create life, but I didn't necessarily think and George Lucas might have intended this way. I don't know, but me personally, I never saw it as it's a nod to him, maybe having created Anakin. I always just saw it, once again, it's just Palpatine trying to not only can you save life, you can even create it. Like, so powerful that, like, because Anakin's goal there is to save Padme's life. So he's being like, not only can you do that, you could create life. Like, that's how powerful you'll become. That's how I always saw it. It could be the other way around, though, too, where you're right, where it might be George Lucas being implied that, well, maybe they created, Anakin. I just never saw it that way. I didn't think about Anakin being created until I read the Plagueis book. And then I was like, oh, I guess that makes sense, But either way, I think no matter which way you twist and turn it, this happening 100 years prior with these witches that are part of the threat or whatever, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And not only that, but they even mentioned, like, these, once again, just like Anakin, they read the midichlorians and they're like, these things are off the charts.
Well, here's the thing with the witches and the Sith in this show. Is the quote I was looking for is, it talks about the Jedi, they live in a dream and they believe everyone else has the same dream, and an acolyte kills the dream. And so, like, that is the whole message, like the whole point of the show is to manipulate the characters, manipulate the lore, recontextualize things to tell the story of how the Jedi really, like, it's like the dream never existed. The dream of, like, the Jedi being the good, the protectors of justice in the galaxy. Like, Obi-Wan, what he says in episode 4 is a dream that never existed, which is essentially to say it's a lie. The Jedi were the protectors of peace and justice in the galaxy. That's a lie, and that's what the point of the show is. And you get that with the Sith, like, whenever, later on in the show, whenever Smile Ren has his helmet off and he's talking to Osha, and when he's talking in episode 5, when he's talking to Kyle, because it's Soul that he's talking to someone with his helmet off about how he wants an acolyte and that, he can't use the Force, like, because the Jedi will hunt him down, and so, like, basically it's like they're forcing his hand. Like, the reason that he has to respond back against the Jedi is because that's literally the only way for them to exist, is to be in this, but it's like, wait, but what is you using the Force look like? Like the dark side is, like, cruel, selfish. Like, that's the whole thing with, like, the way George Lucas created it. It's like the Jedi are selfless. They're self-sacrificing. They're protecting others. And the Sith are the opposite. They're selfish. They're looking after their own needs. But the show is trying to say that's a dream. That's a lie. And so that's why you have all these flawed Jedi that are, like, not acting like Jedi. And so that's that's my big frustration with the show, is that the characters they feel manipulated. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like you understand why they're doing what they're doing. Like, it doesn't feel like it makes sense, but it only makes sense if that's true. If the truth is that the dream's a lie, and it's really the Jedi keeping everyone else from using the Force the way they want to use it.
Well, they've been just trying to say that from the beginning before the show even came out. With all the this is ultimately, no matter what, bad writing aside, bad acting aside, bad whatever aside, my biggest gripe with the show is the fundamental misunderstanding and diversion of George Lucas's vision of what Star Wars was and is. And it started with the press conferences where they would say, well, Star Wars is meant to be this, there is no good or evil, it's a gray area, and yada, yada, yada. No, George Lucas intended Star Wars to be good versus evil, Jedi versus Sith, light versus dark. He explains it very explicitly in a lot of interviews, even recent ones, where he says, like you were saying, the Jedi are selfless, they're self-sacrificing. But then as soon as you start pushing towards the dark side, selfishness, and that leads to harming others, leads to harming of yourself. And that's why to be in balance is to be that selfless, light-sided, The show, Star Wars, is about good and evil. And what the show is trying to do, and what Disney Star is trying to do, is they're trying to paint the Jedi as bad people. Just like the Sith might be bad people, or depending on your point of view, one is bad or one is good. But that's not how Star Wars is meant to be. The Jedi, 100%, like when you come to the prequels, were flawed. They had hubris, they had pride, and that was their downfall. But they were still inherently, the light side still inherently is good, as opposed to the dark side.
They had blind spots, though.
Yes.
It wasn't like this willful, we're just pretending. It's a facade for the Senate.
Yes.
It's a facade so our political opponents can't, whatever. And then you have Soul, he's just completely deluded, essentially, into thinking that he had to do what he had to do. But the show's goes to great pains to making him look ridiculous and unreasonable. The way he's just in episode 7, the way he's just instantly he's watching these two girls in the forest, and he's super interested.
Creepy.
And then the Zabrak comes.
Choose the bear.
Their mother, the one that carried him, comes, and she is a little harsh with one of them, and he's like he gets so nervous that something bad is going to happen. And then later on, it's just the same thing. He sees them, he's whenever he's watching them use the force on each other, and he's watching, and then Anastasia throws you will not, your enemies won't wait for you to be ready to attack or whatever. They won't wait to attack you. And he's losing his mind, he's
his reaction is disproportionate to what he's actually.
Right, because they're telegraphing that, he's got this fixation, and he's misunderstanding things, because we've seen we saw episode 4 or 3, and we saw how things really are. We know the real story. They don't have all that perspective, because in episode 3 you notice you barely see the Jedi at all in episode 3 until they come in and at that one.
I still think the witches are bad, but it's neither here nor there.
Well, I'm not saying I don't think.
I know. The show portrays them as being fine and good. I would have I was going to let Osha go be a Jedi. But go screw yourself.
That's my point, that's the way the show is portraying.
Yes, yeah.
That we should think this way about them because of the lies of the Jedi. The Jedi, that they have the corner on the Force, and that they're policing the world, the galaxy, and stuff like that.
Space Force. Force police,
which is to an extent, the Jedi
Galaxy police.
RoboCop,
the Jedi do police the Force to an extent, but they police it. I don't think I'm using the word police it, but they're almost guardians of the Force, because once again, if you understand Star Wars and how it is, the light side is the Force, as opposed to the dark side is a corruption of the Force.
Right.
And so they are, the Sith are bad people. In any other Star Wars media, the Sith are bad. They kill, they corrupt, they take. Their whole philosophy, read Darth Bane, the whole philosophy is the strong should be able to take from the weak. And that's why the Sith are the way they are. The Jedi don't believe. The Jedi believe in selflessness and and once again, the self-sacrifice. And so, but they're changing now that we believe It's going back to the whole gray area of like, you know, and that's the thing that's nowadays in the world is where there is no like good or bad. There's no truth or falseness. There is only that gray area. There's only what you believe is true and what you believe is right. And that's kind of what they're pushing here. And I just don't, it's a misunderstanding of Star Wars, of what it was meant to be. And they know, they don't care. They've come out and said they're trying to get away from George Lucas's vision of Star Wars. But just call it something else. Don't mask it as Star Wars. Because you're making, at this point...
No, man, we need the IP to make the money.
But they're learning now that they can't even do that because, they're making... And they're also just... It's upsetting. And then you can't even... It's like one of those things, too, where like, I can forgive some things, some changes in lore breaking if you can make a good show. But they can't even make a good show. And it's upsetting. This whole show very much is upsetting.
Parroting word for word, like, lines from the other films doesn't help either. I'm pretty sure, I can't remember if it's May or Osha, but one of them said, you will not take her from me or something like that.
Oh, maybe.
You will not take her from me.
Yeah, it was in 7 or 8. I don't remember which.
They take they have no father line.
Yeah,
that's in the third one.
Yeah,
there was no father. It's like proud of it.
Why?
Better off with that.
Why does Anti-Pickle Rick tell Soul to come back before episode 4? Because they go back there and they do, nothing. They have a little training session where not even any of the important characters are involved. And we get some more vague, no meaning dialogue from another Jedi Master. And then it's like, all right, we're getting the group back together. We're going back out. Why though? There's no change in the status quo between calling them back and then them going out again.
Well, because they know, is it because they know that there's like still like there's still 2 Jedi left? They're still alive.
Well, the fact that
figure out like where May is.
I don't even remember her name. Green chick. The fact that she even lets Soul. I don't even remember her name.
That's the director's wife too.
I know. That's why she's in the show. What a piece of cardboard, by the way.
Yeah, agreed.
That's why I call her Anti-Pickle Rick. But why does she even let Soul be involved in this in the first place? Because clearly he has some sort of like conflict of interest in what's happening. So she sends the dude who she comes to find out was withholding information initially. She doesn't react to that. Sends him back out in charge. And it's like, take some with you, but don't cause a fuss.
Yeah. I don't know if it's supposed to be because she knows that her Padawan might still be out there. I don't know if she thinks he's dead or what. Yeah, this comes in super late, but also it feels to me like it's portrayed as like he's trying to right a wrong. He really wants to be involved in this. He feels really strongly about it, and he's, they have, they know each other really well as Jedi. It's like a doing a favor kind of thing. But I don't even understand, like, what's her role? Is she supposed to be on the council?
I don't know.
Because she's like, why is she in charge of so much?
She keeps referring to the High Council. And are we meant to believe that that's like the actual Jedi Council with Yoda and stuff?
I think
I'm assuming.
Okay, then...
Because, like, Ki-Adi-Mundi, it's like, why is Ki-Adi-Mundi, like, showing deference to her in that meeting? That's one thing I didn't understand. It's like, well, because Ki-Adi-Mundi suggests...
Does he actually speak? I don't even remember.
He does. He's like, we should take this to... He says we should take this to the council. Yeah. And then she's like, no, we shouldn't.
Oh, I remember.
And then he's like... bows, like he like basically just bows.
Okay, so
don't you know that she became a Jedi Knight at like 15 and got her own Padawan right away?
Let's pump our brakes there for a second.
That's the character. Is that the character?
That's not a joke. In the books that they made, the Harbaugh books, she becomes a Jedi Knight
Anti-Pickle Rick,
the age of 15.
Oh man,
and gets a Padawan immediately.
Wait,
that's weird. Cringe.
15 or 16.
Wait, is this her Padawan?
I don't know. I was wondering that.
What, Smiler Ren?
Yeah,
because that's her Padawan.
She has a Padawan in the
Smiler Ren
books.
is her Padawan.
I don't know. I didn't read for
What
this.
is this guy like 50 or something? Because he keeps referring to a long time ago, and I'm like, dude, you're like 24.
Right.
You look like you're
How long ago?
like
are we
3 years
talking?
ago?
what are you, like 18, brother.
Yeah.
4 years ago.
But
to be fair, that her
Not
Padawan,
16.
her Padawan in the book does actually struggle with the dark side. So I was thinking that myself, but I don't know. I don't know what they do with them.
Wait a second. That's crazy though, because think about this. All this stuff happened 16 years ago. So what was that guy doing 16 years ago? He's a little baby, or like
maybe
5
he's
years
not
old.
actually human, and he's some
He
sort
is
of whatever. Maybe he's older than he's meant to. I don't know, dude. Hey, Disney don't know how time works either, because Ki-Adi-Mundi.
Like, when did she find? Like, what was May doing?
Ki-Adi-Mundi should
for
be
however many
40
years before.
years from birth at this point in the show.
Plagueis also would be like a baby at this point.
Yeah. So here, let's just go ahead and talk about Ki-Adi-Mundi real quick. He says, I will repeat, the Sith have been extinct for a millennia. He says that in the prequels.
Right, that's real Ki-Adi-Mundi.
Right.
The OG.
Skinwalker Ki-Adi-Mundi, okay? Ki-Adi-Mundi 2, the remix. Should be 40 years from birth at this point, but we're going to just drop him in this show.
That's how you know not to trust him. You're not born yet.
Yeah,
I'm not going to trust you.
You're the imposter. I guarantee it's because they didn't do the homework, so they're just put them in there.
I think it's because
we need to add some legitimacy.
It's literally
I think they don't care.
because no, they do care. It's literally because the Jedi are liars. The Jedi are covering up things. So we need to have the guy who said
he's
a millennia
retconned
ago,
to be.
Yeah, that's the point of that scene, is that he knows we've seen some activity 100 years ago, and whenever it gets brought up in the thing, he's got to act like, as far as everyone knows,
why
it's been a millennia.
That should be a big problem.
He's bad.
They're going to do this.
Bad
They're
people
doing the same
just
thing
do
with Yoda.
bad things.
That's the point of Yoda being in the last scene, is for him to also know about all this.
That's so dumb, man.
Well, I mean,
that's so dumb.
You're probably right, but like, I don't want to give the creators the credit, because they don't deserve the credit.
It's
for
bad
that.
credit. It's not good credit.
No, but I mean,
really
like, I don't mean like that. Like, I mean, I don't want to give them the credit that they got that across well enough, because they didn't. They just like literally.
I thought they did.
Because she just finished lying to the Senate. So it's like, what is she going to tell
The rest
Yoda?
of it is so bad that I thought that's... I mean, I wouldn't be surprised either way at this point if that's a complete accident, because...
What?
Dropping him in there like that and him serving that purpose.
Right.
Like, I mean, that's atrocious, and it kind of reeks of that.
Well, it's intentionally not giving us his reaction, how he responds, because it could be...
Are we talking about Yoda at this point?
Because, like, it could be... Although there's not really any good response.
I was talking about Ki-Adi-Mundi, but both of them. Both of them.
Oh, I see what you're saying. But that's
the Ki-Adi-Mundi thing is just like...
I think it is purposeful.
I think he's probably right, just because of how the rest of the show went. But I also could just see them being like...
Judging off the other elements, I can't buy that.
But I also think it could just be he is being... And the other bad way of him just being hopelessly naive and not believing that it's actually a Sith.
Well, what does he actually know? What is...
Just someone's killing Jedi. That's literally it.
Okay.
He knows nothing.
Is it ever mentioned to him directly, Force user killing Jedi? I mean, it's got to be.
I'm sure it's implied.
I feel like that's a common thing that keeps coming up, is the fact that this person has some type of training, and that they think it could be. But former Padawan.
It is never specifically mentioned Sith to him. It is mentioned Sith later on to Sol, where he says, like, you could even call me Sith.
Yeah, okay, so you're saying cover up to protect themselves, but at this point, all they know is it's just some rando that they have no affiliation with. They have no reason to cover it up at this point. If anything, they should be like, this person's on the loose, we're out to get them. They set themselves up to look better if they apprehend this so-called Sith, first one that's been around, and according to Fivehead, a millennia. And it just, the angle they take doesn't make sense based on what we've seen, is because either they're retconning it, and again, I don't know, man.
I'd have to watch the scene again.
Or it's as simple as they're just that dumb.
I would have to watch the scene again, but
I think it could go either way.
It probably could go either way.
I think either way is bad.
Yeah.
I just keep coming back to like all the little nitpicky stuff certainly like is fun and they deserve it.
100%.
But at the same, it's
there's so much more.
The reason, the reason there's so much of that in there is because they were had such tunnel vision on this idea that we have to tell this angle. In fact, I would almost view this show as like a unreliable narrator story. Like this is like Palpatine telling us, or like this is like a Sith telling us what happened. You know what I mean? Like they're telling it's just everything's slanted. The characters like are doing things that don't make sense, but it's all because it's trying to direct everything towards this sympathetic view of being against the Jedi, people that choose to go against the Jedi, and to just straight up murder.
But even
Jedi.
I get that it could be like it does. I do agree. It does seem like that. But it also, once again, the Sith are good bad guys in my opinion because they're aware that they're not necessarily good guys. They're making the Sith in this show kind of out to be like, well, we're just misunderstood and whatever. The Sith are aware of what they believe. They don't like the Jedi because they believe that they have a monopoly on the Force, but also they just disagree with the light side of the Force. They disagree with the selflessness of the Jedi. A lot of Sith do. Bane is very, very much on that in his books, where it's just like, no, if I'm powerful, I should take what I want.
But what about the witch side of the Force?
Which side?
I don't know.
And so it's just like...
That's the third side.
Like, I get what you're saying with the whole narrative, but even if we're getting it from the Sith perspective, a true Sith wouldn't be trying to portray them like this way. It would just be
I mean, Palpatine totally, seducted... Like, in order to seduce Anakin, the dogmatic view of the Jedi, you can't just look at the one side of the Force. Like, you have to look at all the aspects of the Force. He portrays it that way, and then completely, as soon as he, gets the chance to just roast Mace Windu and command Anakin to go commit genocide, he does. There is an aspect of the Sith, at least the way, maybe not, ancient Sith, but in the Rule of Two era, there does seem to be an aspect where it's we're acting like we're cool, and the Jedi really are just tricking you, and they're holding you back and all this stuff. And then now you're ours, so then we pull the curtain back, and you just do the nasty stuff.
I get.
I don't know.
Arm yourselves, witches.
I think
how do we wrap this up?
I think they should they should have just completely
there's so many great lines.
Completely get rid of the twins. The twins are pointless, useless characters. They bring nothing to the show. Get rid of the space witches.
Make Smiler Ren not cringe.
Make Smiler Ren less cringe. Star Wars is kind of cringe. I think it's okay to have some cringe in there.
No, but I mean, it's self-aware in a lot of respects. This is over the top.
That's fair. That's fair. Make Smiler Ren less cringe.
They think they was cooking.
Have the show focus around Smiler Ren as a Sith doing Sith things. We do not need to make a show that kind of try to show the Sith in a good light. Make the Sith be bad. That's a cool show.
Yeah, people would watch that.
I would love. That's what we all thought the Acolyte was going to be when it was first announced. Was we're getting a freaking show from the perspective of the Sith. Heck yeah. Star Wars: The Old Republic, I love playing the Sith because it's fun being bad.
No, we're doing Face Off, but we're doing it bad.
The problem is, though, and this would be a whole other episode, but you said it the other day, didn't Leslie Headland say that the Smiler Ren character is kind of a stand-in for her?
It's a stand-in for her. She basically came out and said the Smiler Ren's a stand-in for her.
Oh, man, then, I mean, it's she's mega cringe, dude.
But,
oh, yeah.
That's the point. That's the thing that was there's more happening, the whole what do the Jedi represent if he's a stand-in for her,
the quote-unquote establishment,
who stabbed her in the back, you know what I mean? Then it's this whole mind game of are you really trying to tell an interesting story, or are you trying to do a self-insert?
I mean, the narrative is apparent.
You're trying to do a self-insert,
unfortunately,
and tell a story that like makes, the people that said you're a part of the dark side are actually the ones who are the bad guys. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, the commentary on real life is not well hidden. It's very apparent.
Yeah.
And it's very played out.
So what I say about Soul is literally like, I just don't even accept episode 7. Like, I don't upset because it makes no sense, like what he's doing and why.
He's got no reason to do what he does at the time that he does.
No. And it doesn't fit I think you're right. It does not fit the character we have seen so far.
There's so much other stuff with him in the show I really like. I really like a lot of the performance of the actor. I love him in his fights when he's fighting. He kicked the crap out of Smile Ren at one point, and I wanted him to go all the way with it. Like Mace Windu should have with Palpatine. But
I think, yeah. I'll just say, last little thing for me. I'm irritated in the last episode how OSHA just comes in and force chokes him to death, and that's how he dies. I think that's stupid. I think OSHA, there's no way that she could be... Disney just likes to throw around that people can use the Force willy-nilly. And like, I get that she was sort of trained, and I guess she had a lot of hatred, but like...
Well, and they're playing with the idea that they're like, they're like they're chosen ones.
Oh, that reminds me. We were talking about how... Crap. I lost my train of thought.
While you try to figure that out, I'm upset about Wookiee Jedi because he had an interesting setup. I mean, we see him in the jungle and he yells something in his Wookiee language. Okay, so he's got these two trespassers, right? And yells something in his Wookiee language and then force pulls the gun away from him and breaks it. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Whoa. We might have something here.
Pacifist.
Wookiee Jedi. We've never seen, as far as I remember, we've never seen Wookiee Jedi before. And that could be like an interesting concept because up to this point, the Wookiees have been, they're sentient, of course, but they're very primitive, and now it's like, ooh, we have this primitive, sort of creature, and now he's, the Force is all about opening your mind and blah, blah, blah. He's using the Wookiee using the Force. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So it gets a cool setup. And then we hit episode 3 where, it goes off the rails. And then when we come back to him, we get to see him do like, it starts with him. Episode 4 starts with him, if I'm not mistaken. He's doing his little day-to-day. He cooks something. And then we cut away. And then next time we see him, he's already dead. And it's like...
Didn't even get to see him fight.
Even the interesting elements they introduce, they fumble completely.
Tunnel vision.
Yeah, and I heard that there was supposed to be a fight between him and Smilo Ren, but they had to cut it for budgetary reasons, which just makes me wonder, where did your budget go? The writing is bad. It looks acceptable. The acting is all over the place, mid for the most part. Where did your budget go? That we couldn't have.
Overpaying some people, I'll tell you that.
Oh, yeah. I wonder who.
It's just money laundering.
Yeah.
I do think it'd be remiss to not rag a little bit / a lot on the lead actress.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, it's almost low hanging. It's very low hanging.
It's very low hanging.
It needs
but it does need to be said.
You never. I never know how she feels about anything until she does something extreme.
Yeah.
Has some extreme switch, some extreme whatever. I really don't know. And I never see it coming. And so it never feels justified. There's got to be some sense that when you're watching something or reading something, that when it happens, it's like, oh, of course. Not in a like predictable way, but in a they set this up well.
Yeah.
And they kind of hinted at these things, but they don't do that well enough with how subtle her performance is. And so it's hard to feel really anything for her characters at all. Like, I don't feel anything for them in any of the situations because they make no sense. So
yeah, not to rag on her too much, but also she's just not at least in this show, she's not a good actor. She's not acting very well.
No.
Like, not to just be mean for the sake of being mean, but like, she really just isn't a good actor in this show. Like, she may be good elsewhere. I don't know what else she's done in, but like her like you said, she's just very flat, and part of it's writing for sure, but like her portrayals are just flat.
Yeah. Even
when she's supposed to be showing anger, or she's supposed to be showing whatever,
she looks like a deer, like caught in the headlights, like all the time. She looks like PTSD.
Daisy Ridley's thing was letting her mouth hang open, and Stenberg's thing is like just deer in the headlight eyes for every. I'm gonna pair it with every emotion.
And that was what they were looking for, apparently.
Oh man, Well, and then you got Hedlund's wife, just robotic. Yeah, not a single emotion to be had.
Vernestra was probably the most wasted character in this show.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I'm supposed to feel. How am I supposed to feel about Vernestra? It feels like I'm supposed to not like her.
I don't.
She's supposed to be a villain, like because her portrayal there's just no redeemable quality about her portrayal.
Spock had more spice than she did. Also, it's kind of skipped over in the show. Soul is really the one who shoulders all of the blame for what happens and like all of the consequence.
Yeah. That was probably the most upset I was.
Trinity kills all those people through the Force. Like, what are we meant to believe happens there? So she frees Wookiee Jedi's mind, and in doing so, kills all the like she mentally kills them.
Yeah, that confused me.
Because the whole time until it was shown, I'm like, how are we going to get to all these dead bodies on the floor? Because it's definitely not fire, because you can see them, whenever the event is referenced and they show like flashbacks or whatever. Nobody's burnt up or anything. There's not a lot of blood everywhere. There's not a lot of rubble. There's not a particularly lot amount of rubble everywhere. How did all these people die? And it's like, oh, well, they were all teaming up to control Wookiee Man, and then through some vague force power, Trinity forced all of them out, and that killed them.
The pitch meeting is everyone has to die, and it has to be the Jedi's fault.
So the movie can happen. Pitch meeting guy.
I mean, that's the pitch meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, premise of the show. Everything's the Jedi's fault.
Yeah, everyone's motivations, everyone's reasons for doing something. Like even Cal Naka, like he's supposed to be like almost in like an exile because of what happened, but how they explain, I'm pretty sure how it was explained, at least in an interview, was he exiled himself because he used his claws in that fight against Torben. And that was supposed to be like a no-no for Wookiees, I guess.
Which never comes across.
Never comes across.
That's cringe.
I don't even think he ever uses his claws.
Well, that's how Torben ends up with the scars.
I didn't see that, though. I saw him slam his head into a wall.
Yeah, well...
And he's being controlled by witches.
The editing is bad, and he's being controlled by witches, but it does, like, he claws his face or whatever. But...
Also, you're gonna fight, brother. Like, who gives a crap if you use your claws? You're a Wookiee.
Yeah, just the whole the blame and consequences are so disproportionately spread out. It doesn't make any sense. It's like Soul gets all the blame. He's the fall guy in this situation because he killed one person. He didn't know what she was going to do. Other Jedi, it's like, what else was she going to do? Just let them keep controlling him. But like, she inadvertently, at best, inadvertently killed 30 people, and then all Wookiee Man did was get controlled. So why is he even
right?
And then
Torben just wanted to go home.
He's like drawing patterns, like there's like she's drawing like the patterns of the witches or whatever, like as if it's like really on like it's something he can't let go of. Like what happened?
Homie got body snatched, and then to be fair, he did run off into the forest. But he did not kill anybody.
If anything, he's got his butt whooped.
I mean, he got body snatched. he got scared and ran off, and then he got rocked. But so he goes into a self-imposed meditative state for 16 years for what?
And it drinks poison immediately. Like, it's just like, I've been waiting for you. That's the poison.
Second meeting, by the way. Oh man, we didn't even talk about that scene of her trying to get in the force bubble. Comically long.
Yeah. I also remember what I wanted to say. I remember
say it
right now.
Go for it.
We were talking about how she has to, the Acolyte guy wants her to kill without using a weapon. And it kind of is portrayed in the last episode that he wants her to use the force to kill.
I guess, yeah, force choke. The dark side, maybe. Such
a missed opportunity. What is one thing a Jedi wouldn't do that a Sith would? Kill an unarmed opponent. That whole lesson should have been, you should be willing to kill someone who's unarmed because you're Sith. They don't need to be armed. If you're there to kill them, you kill them.
Instead of killing someone without a weapon.
Like, you need to be skilled enough to do it without a weapon. Technically, she did. Poison, she did kill him without using a weapon.
Right, that's what I thought.
He did it himself.
I thought she did it at that point.
But then, once again, like, that's what I thought they were going to do, was be like, oh, okay, well, she's supposed to learn to kill, like, Master Soul. Soul won't draw his weapon, and she'll kill him using, when he's quote-unquote unarmed.
Yeah.
That would have been pretty decent. That would have been a great way of, like, the Sith is willing to kill someone who they believe should be dead without having them be to fight back. Unlike the Jedi, who is betrayed multiple times, were like, I'm not raising a weapon unless you raise a weapon against me, because they're stupid. But such a missed opportunity there. Not that I think that they had any redeeming qualities at that point, but like...
Yeah, man, I don't know. It's a mess.
Yep. It was a mess. This episode's been... It's a little all over the place, but we needed to come here and we needed to talk to you all. Thank you for listening to us vent.
We're very passionate about Star Wars, to see them do my boy like that.
Maybe, because now the public is really up in arms about it. Maybe this is
the last straw.
Maybe this is the last straw.
I don't know, man.
And things start looking up from here.
You got the shills for Disney, who are all calling for a second season. Leslie Headland is...
They're implying that there's already one in the works. I don't know if she's just trying to...
I hope not. My goodness. Hope Kathleen Kennedy just curls up and doesn't make another thing ever.
I mean, I wouldn't watch it. I wouldn't watch a sequel because...
I wouldn't either.
To have a character built up that you in a way that you like them, and then to have the makers of the show go rug pull, you like a really bad dumb guy.
Gotcha.
Actually,
you filthy white man.
Yeah, I knew you'd like this guy. That's why I killed him.
I know, but all the white men are gonna like him.
Oh,
right. Apparently. And then just like rug pull us, So like I would never trust them again. Because if I get attached to a character, then I'm probably going to find out that character is like horrible.
I wouldn't watch it because I just know
10 years ago.
They'll just ruin Plagueis.
Everyone is either terrible or stupid, or both.
Yeah,
I'd rather be just stupid. But
like, where's the Jedi that did everything right? All you need
to know about it, if you've never seen the show,
that's why I liked her.
If you've never seen the show,
she's the only good guy.
All you need to know is just look up different quotes by Leslie Headland about the show. And then they'll tell you all you need to know about the show. I watched this really good video. It was like a 20-minute video the guy made. And it's basically no commentary, nothing. All it is there's clips of George Lucas talking about Star Wars, and there's clips of Leslie Headland talking about Star Wars. And it is freaking night and day.
Yeah.
And that is all you need to know about.
It's a different vision.
A completely different vision. And that's all you need to know about the show.
Current vision is so problematic.
The intro to all their shows is so fitting. It's just the red and blue lights flashing over the helmets and stuff. They're just like, look at all this stuff we paid for. Mm-hmm. Here's some garbage.
This is all ours now.
Yeah, we bought this.
Deal with it.
We bought this.
Pray we don't alter it any further.
And now we're pray I don't alter it.
Maybe that'll be the name of this episode. Although it's a little wordy.
Just let it die.
Yeah, man.
Just let's start at this point. Just let it die.
The past is dead. Kill it if you have to.
Or
let the past die. Kill it if you have to.
Let my boy die in peace, please.
Maybe
he's not in peace anymore. He's writhing in his.
Look how they killed my boy.
Look how they massacred my boy. Maybe Romulus will be good.
Hey, it's be hard to get down in the depths like this, but
somehow Alien returned. Somehow May returned.
They somehow made the writing in this worse than somehow Palpatine returned, in my opinion.
Someone does say somehow something happened at one point in the show.
This is the show version. Like if somehow Palpatine returned was an entire show.
How can the whole
show feel as ridiculous?
We need to Rogue One
this
this.
One line.
We need to Rogue One this, but make it stupid.
Right.
We need a whole show based on one line, and it needs to embody the spirit of that line. Somehow.
An acolyte kills the dream.
Yeah. Somehow an acolyte returned.
All right. Well, I'm going to go find a helipad to jump off of. No.
No.
I'm teasing everybody.
That's the path to the dead side. Well, thank you for coming here and listening to this ray of sunshine for your day.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of hate-filled episode.
Yeah, we're all on the dark side now. Hopefully we'll be trying to talk about some good Star Wars stuff here soon. Maybe next episode.
Yeah, maybe next episode you'll see a little bit of, depending how fast I can read, a little bit of
good writing.
I've now talked negatively about Star Wars twice on this show. I would love something positive to talk about.
We are going to have you on some time for a positive.
That'd be great.
A positive talk.
Thanks for having me.
Talk about Obi-Wan.
It's
been an honor. Ew.
All right, well, as we say, this has been the Bridge of Two podcast.
A far, far away bridge.
I think you stared at me like that the last time we did that.
It's so magical. I just can't take my eyes off it.